What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel once again. So recently I got sent this Two Trees TS2 laser engraver, and this is a 10 watt. This is their newest one. So I'm gonna get this opened up, set up, tested, and we're gonna see how this works out. Now previously I tested out the Solvo SO2 in a previous video, and that was only the 5 watt. So we're gonna see what this 10 watt can do differently and see how much of a difference the 10 watt is over the 5 watt. So let's get this opened up. Let's check it out. All right, so I got this taken out of the box, and here are all the pieces that it comes with. Obviously, you can see the frame, laser module, the stepper motors, the power adapters, the user manual, extra pieces to test on, whether it's leather, whether it's wood. All the screws and tools you're gonna need to get this all set up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this set up according to their user manual, which, look at this thing. This is an entire book, which pretty awesome in that aspect, so good for them. But I'll get this all set up and then we'll be right back. All right, everyone, so I got this all put together. Now, this is really nice. It's a big machine. This is 450 by 450. So if you're looking to engrave something much bigger, a skateboard, a big block of wood, whatever it is, this is a good size. Now let me start by saying this took quite a while to put together. It probably didn't need to be, but it took me probably about an hour and a half. And I'll tell you why. It's because when you look at the pages, it's not really accurate and doesn't really tell you what you're doing. You're just kind of looking at a picture and it's like, put 2 screws here, and that's all it really says. M3 6 screws by 4. But that's not right. That one is because there's only 2, but in this spot, there's actually 3 screws, and I'll show you right here in a second. So here you can see that there's actually 3 screws when it only shows 2. So I'm not quite sure, and they also weren't the right size. These over here, yes, those were 2 screws to put in, but again on this one that was 3 screws. So it says 2, but they weren't the right screws to use. So I'm not quite really sure, so that confused me. So it took a little while longer than I expected. So while I was looking at this manual, trying to figure out what these pictures were even showing, because I couldn't tell which was which, where it was, I had to lay it out. I actually had to go back to the very beginning and actually look to see how it actually went together. So that was one of the problems that I had, was that the screws just weren't right. They didn't tell you the right screws to use. So it kind of threw me off a little. Also, I would recommend, if you're putting this together, go through and read through the entire manual of putting this together before you do it. Because when you get to the part right here and you put it on, you actually have to make sure that both are even in the middle. Otherwise, you might have one that's over here, you'll have the other one over there, and if you do one, you can't move the other one. So you kind of, if you don't know that, now you have to go take apart these screws just in order to move the one axis down. And that kind of threw me off a little too. So I highly recommend, if you're putting this together for the first time, read through the whole manual to see what you're actually doing before you go a step further. That way you don't get stuck like I did and have to go back, unscrew certain pieces just to be able to move one part to get it to line up evenly. All right, well, since it's already put together, we're already set to go, I'm going to go ahead and run some tests. And they did give me some leather and a block of wood, some acrylic, some aluminum business cards that are metal, some little dog tags. So we're going to try this on all of them, and we're going to see how it works and go from there. So also, if you saw in my previous video when I was testing out the Solvo SV02, I think it was, I accidentally burned my table. So I'm going to be putting a thick piece of steel underneath it just to make sure I don't burn anything and I don't melt my table like I did last time. So let's go ahead over to the computer. Let's get something set up, and maybe we'll just test it on a piece of wood to start and see what happens. So for this first test, I'm just going to be using this block of wood, and we'll get this set up and we'll see if we can engrave something in this and see how it works. Okay, so here we are over in Lightburn, and I just grabbed this little photo of an alien off the internet. So let's go ahead and get this set up. So for this, in order to just do this outline, I'm going to go to Trace. And you can adjust the threshold, the cutoff, however you want to make it look. If I fade the image, now I can kind of see the little border to where it's going. So when you think you're happy with it, just go ahead and click OK. And now you can see we have the outline. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. We'll put that right back over there. And for the wood, as far as fill goes, I'm doing a fill and a line, not just a line, not just a fill. I'll do both. And I'm going to go off of their power that they say, which is, it says for plywood, this isn't plywood, but close enough, it's wood. So we'll do 6,000 speed at 50% power. And I'm not using an air assist. However, this does have the option for air assist, but since I don't have a pump just yet, I won't be using that. So that's not really necessary. All these I'm just going to leave alone because it's not an actual really a full photo or anything like that. So I'm not really concerned about the line interval, the lines per inch, anything like that. So we'll just go ahead and click OK. And I'll get this machine turned on and we'll get this all set up. So I have this all plugged in. It's all ready to go. Now there isn't an actual power button switch. So in order to turn this on, all you got to do is turn the knob. And this is a cutoff valve in case you just need to kill the power in case something goes wrong. It also has the flame detector right here in case it catches on fire. And yeah, it'll automatically shut off for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get this lined up to the piece and we'll start engraving. Okay, so that has finished. Let's take a look at it. And that came out okay. I think it could be better. I think if I change the settings a little bit, maybe slow it down a little, boost up the power a little bit more. This is a harder wood. So I'm going to run that one more time, and I'm going to run it on some different settings, but I will tell you those settings in a second. So here we are back in Lightburn, and if you just double click on this, you can see that I have changed the speed now to 3000 and I upped the power to 50. So let's just see if that makes any kind of difference in how much darker we can get that. So we'll go ahead and frame it again, hold down Shift, click frame. And the last one took about a little over 5 minutes to do. So we'll do this one again. I'm going to guess this is roughly going to be 10 minutes. If I right click and go to preview, it tells me the estimated time is 6 minutes and 36 seconds. Okay. We have that framed. Let's just hit start. Let's see how this goes. So now that that is finished, that took about 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Let's take a look. And as you can see, that came out much darker. That actually, I'm not sure how well you can tell, but that's actually deep in there pretty good. So that looks much better than that one if you ask me. So those are the settings I would probably stick with for wood. And I could probably, I mean, because this is so deep, I could probably go back in there with some paint and even add some color into this if I wanted to. So 6,000 speed, 3,000 speed. This was 50% power. This is 60% power. I probably could have just left it at 50% power and just lowered the speed, but I like how that looks. I think it came out great. So let's go ahead and test some other things. So for this test, we're going to try out some leather. Now they say for leather, in order to cut through it, you should run the speeds at 2,000 millimeters per minute at 100% power. Now the strip of leather they gave me, it's glued together, and this is actually like 1.4, so it's about half, or double, I mean. So in order to cut through this, I'm going to set this at 100 millimeters per second just to cut it in half and 100% power. So let's just go ahead and get a little square and see if we can get that cut out, see what happens. So I'll get this framed just on the side so I can cut a little piece out. And as you can see, if I go to preview, it says 6 seconds. Is that true? I don't know. But I did go into the console and I did move it. So this actually adjusted it down about 2 millimeters. And it goes over all that in the instruction manual, so I'm not going to go into the proper height that you need. But it does autofocus it. And I can right click and you can see G1, Z5 that it lowers it to, and Z7. So when you're carving, it actually raises it by 2 millimeters. So now that's all framed up. Let's go ahead and just click start. And as you can see, this one I just turned off. That was the skull. So all it's going to cut is the line. And I didn't do a fill. I'm just doing a line. So let's click start. And that was it. Did it cut through? Almost, but not quite. It cut through the first one, but not the second one. So I'm going to do this again. We'll lower it, the speed. Let's put it at 500, and we'll see if that makes it all the way through. Because that, it's almost through, but not quite. So let's reframe this. Okay, and we'll go back to cuts. And let's just adjust the speed. And we'll put this at 500, just so it's a little bit slower and get that laser to burn there. Click OK, and let's start. And hopefully this will actually make it cut all the way through. Okay, that is finished. Let's take a look. And yep, that fell right out of there. So as you can see, so this was 1.4, 1.5 millimeters. So you're going to want to set that at 100% power and 500 millimeters per minute. And yep, that cut it right out. Not a problem. It fell right out of there. So for this test, we'll use another piece of leather that I have. And this one's about 2 millimeters. I'm not going to cut this. I'm going to engrave on it. So I adjusted it, moved it back up. And we're just going to go into Lightburn. And I grabbed this picture of Homer Simpson going woohoo. So let's get this framed. So we have it right there. And for this one, I set the speed for 3,000 and I set the max power to 40%. And let's go ahead and start. Now that that is finished, let's take a look. And we got Homer. And that came out really good, considering how small it is, and I mean the detail and how fine, I mean, that's tiny. So having that come out that good, I'm impressed. I like that. That's cool. All right, let's run a few more tests. How about let's try some stainless steel next, because I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, can it do that? So let's find out. Okay, so I'll be using one of these dog tags, and I already have one set up. And let's go ahead and start. So that has finished, and as you can see, that looks really good. I am going to go over it one more time just to see if I can make it a little bit darker. But yeah, with just one pass, this only took about 13, 14 minutes to do. But I'm going to go over this one more time, so I'm not going to pick it up yet, just so I have it already lined up. But yeah, we'll see if that comes out any darker with a second pass. All right, now that that second pass is finished, let's take a look at this. And as you can see, I think that came out really good. I can feel the engraving with my nail, so that's not coming off. But yeah, I think that worked really well. I'm happy with how that detail came out. That came out perfect. So let's go ahead and run one more test, and let's do it on the acrylic since I haven't done that yet. So let's get that set up and run a test on that. Okay, so I have my piece of acrylic right here, and we're going to try and do a cut first. So we'll just try and cut out a little square again like we did previously with the leather. So back over here in Lightburn, you can see that I have the square and I have the speed setting at 150, and the power is at 100. And according to their settings, they say for 3 millimeters for acrylic, for cutting it should be at 200 and the power at 100. Let's run this test and let's see if it cuts it out. And it did not cut that out. Let's change some settings and let's try again. So when I did this, I didn't realize that I forgot to home it first and set it for the correct height for this. So I just readjusted it now. So let's go ahead and run a new test and let's see if that makes any difference. Okay, let's have a look. So that looks like it went just about all the way through. And yep, I can pop it out. And that worked. So make sure you adjust your laser to the right height before doing it, otherwise it won't cut through. So now that we know that that cuts, so if you look at their 3 millimeters, it says to do it at 200. I actually had to go down to 100, and this is about 2.7 millimeters thick is what this is. So this isn't actually correct, but that's okay. So let's go through acrylic and let's try engraving it, and we'll go off of their speed, 6020, and let's see what happens. So back in Lightburn, I have this image over here. We'll turn off the square. And I just grabbed this Family Guy one. Let's just shrink this down a little bit so it's not nearly as big. Move it up. Let's get this framed. And according to the settings, it says it's only going to take 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So let's hit go. Let's see how this comes out. So that has finished. Let's take a look at it. And as you can see, it's light, but you can still see it. It's kind of hard to pick it up on camera. There we go. That's better. So yeah, thing came out just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and run one more test on this, and I'll just be using a tile. And I have coated this white with spray paint, so it doesn't look like it, but there is. So we'll try and do a picture on this, see how it comes out. All right, so this has finished engraving, so let's take a look at this. So as you can see, I think that came out awesome. I will wipe this down and get all the little ash and residue off, but yeah, I think that looks great. All right, so we have finished with these pieces. This is that evil clown that I printed, and I just run this under some warm water, took a sponge to it to wipe off all the residue. So as you can see, that turned out really, really well. I also did this Freddy Krueger one that you can see right here. Again, just wiped it down with some water, and that was it. I didn't have to use paint thinner or anything like that to get this residue off. Just some water and a sponge, wiped right off, and that's how it came out. And as you can see, this works really well on wood. Depending on your settings that you used, it will engrave leather. As you can see right here, it will also cut the leather. But again, you will have to adjust your settings based on the thickness of the material and what you're cutting. It does do stainless steel really, really well. I think that came out great. Also acrylic, kind of hard to see in the photo, but it does work, and I could adjust my settings and make it a little better, but overall I'm happy with how it turned out. Here's another piece, just a little bracelet of the Zodiacs, so you can see how that turns out. So yeah, I think this works really, really well. So a few features I'd like to talk about that I really, really like about this machine. Number one being the size of this. This is 450 by 450, which is huge to me. I mean, as you can see, this takes up almost my entire table, whereas some of the other machines that I've used in 3D printers, they're half this size. So having something this big when you're doing laser engraving is really, really useful. You can see over here that it has the automatic kill switch if for whatever reason you need to shut it off. It also features the smoke detector, so if any kind of flame, if you start a fire when you're doing wood, which I have done in the past, but I didn't have that, and I walked away and I came back and I melted a hole in my table. So definitely a nice feature to have. I would recommend doing it in a well-ventilated area, or at least open a window, because depending on what you're doing, this will create some smoke, as you can see while I was doing some of those burns. So you just don't want to be sitting there breathing it in. Always make sure you're using the eye protection, because you do not want to be looking at that light while it's running, because it can damage your eyes. This machine also features a gyroscope built in, so if your machine ends up getting tilted by more than 15 degrees, it will automatically shut off to prevent anything from happening or causing any issues. So another really nice feature that I didn't really notice because I just keep it on a flat surface, but if you had to do something that was more at an angle, keep in mind that it will automatically shut off if it's raised more than 15 degrees. So this also allows for Wi-Fi connection, and you can do it using an app. And here's the app if you want to control it. And I have tested this. It does work. However, you cannot move the Z-axis. So you have to have the Z already set up before doing this. Otherwise, you won't be able to change it. But you can create your own pictures. You can add text. You can add material, photos, and yeah, everything can be controlled from Wi-Fi from the app if you want to use it, which is really cool. So overall, what do I think of this machine? This is 100% a winner in my book. I will be using this a lot more and more. If you guys are looking for a picture engraved or something like this on a tile or wood, contact me, let me know. I'll sell these on my website. I'll sell some other artwork on my website as well if you're interested in purchasing something. If you want something custom made, again, contact me, let me know, and I can get that done for you. But so for the price point, you're looking at about, I think it's $6.99 for it. But I'll also be giving out a $30 off coupon right now, and along with some other specials, but I'll put a link down in the description to where you can get these and how to pick one up and save a little money. But overall, this machine is awesome, and I would highly recommend this to anybody that is looking to get into laser engraving. Overall, this machine is great. I love the features of this. The only thing that I had problems with was putting this together, and it was just because of the kind of difficult directions, but there is a video link, and I'll also link that to the description to how to actually put this together so you can follow along step by step if that'll make it easier for you. But I got impatient and I didn't want to do that, so I winged it and followed those directions. But again, as I showed you earlier, it was a little difficult trying to figure out these screws because it didn't show the correct number of screws or the right screws for that matter, and how it kind of got put together. So I had to kind of play around with it for a while, but in the end, once I got this put together, I am very happy with it. This machine works great. Definitely a win in my book. Well, that's it for today, guys. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, get notified of all the new videos that come out each week. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.